Welcome back for another helping of oysters, clams, and cockles presented by Bolin Media. I am Ross Bolin here with Barrett Dudley, ready to digest and discuss episode 2 of season 2 of House of the Dragon, titled Rhaenyra the Cruel.
I once again enjoyed this episode and then thought about it and went to sleep, never knowing the title of the episode.
Yeah, because they do that to you.
Shouts to HBO Max. And that even started until like almost 9. You'd think that they would pop the title in there.
I don't think they pop it on until the next day.
Until the next day.
Oddly enough.
But what about if you're watching, what if you're super old school and you're watching like on HBO?
I don't think it says there either.
You think it just says episode 2 on actual HBO?
But I don't know. Who's watching on it? Who's watching like that? Like on you're talking about like on the channel?
Yes.
Like on the channel HBO.
On the channel HBO.
Are people still doing that?
I think so.
I felt like I was the last person on the planet to cut the cord.
Can you not get, I think on YouTube TV, you can, if you sign up for HBO, you get the channel HBO
in your
on
guide?
Your guide. Yeah, I think you do. I think that's like a little perk. Obviously, let me just get out in front of and apologize for my voice today.
You're froggy.
I'm very froggy. I don't know what's going on. I don't like feel awful. I just like have this like, I have got a frog in my throat. I've got a scratchy throat. Hopefully I'm not just over here just dishing out strep throat to you.
It's not that bad. Well, strep throat is that bad. I meant your voice is not that bad.
It's not strep. It's not strep.
Please no strep. Honestly, I feel a little better now that I know you're dealing with an ailment. Because, as I mentioned before we started recording, I have just like full-blown poison ivy.
You too are dealing with an ailment
on the back of my legs, so I did not really sleep last night.
We're just a couple of Aemon Targaryens just curled up in the fetal position, having lost butt ass naked. Just I don't know, weighing like 87 pounds, but we're here. We're cranking out the pod, and hopefully we'll both be remedied. You know, maybe a little milk of the poppy.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. I think this will be good for me to take my mind off of how itchy I am. And, you know, I can fill in for you as needed if your voice completely gives out. We had ourselves a long one last night. It was a 72-minute runtime. 72 minutes. And I'll just say, if we have several episodes that are over 70 minutes, I will be far less upset about the fact that we're only getting 8 episodes in this season.
I thought about that. I thought when I like paused and saw that 40 minutes had elapsed and we still had another 40 to go. Now that included all the inside the episodes and trailers for next week and all that.
Which is like 15 minutes at this point.
Right, yeah.
It's a lot back there.
But yeah, I thought about that as well. I was like, okay, so maybe they trimmed it down to 8, but they're going to go like 60, 70 minutes every episode.
And it does seem like that is the case. I've seen some run times and some episode titles leaked, like for next week, episode 3. And there's a lot climbing over the 60-minute mark and a few more climbing over the 70-minute mark, it would seem. So obviously we'll wait and see. But yeah, exciting stuff. Before we dive in, remember our show is available on all the major podcast platforms as well as in full video on youtube.com/@oystersclamscockles. Please subscribe, rate, and review if you like what we do. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, crush that like button, and leave a comment when one comes to you as you watch. Please and thank you. Follow Barrett on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram @Barrett Dudley, and follow me, Ross, on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram @WR Bolin. Thank you very much. Follow our show as well. Just search Oysters, Clams, and Cockles on TikTok, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Episode 2 of Season 2 starts out with everybody melting down at the Red Keep. It's chaos at the Red Keep. This is immediately after Jaehaerys's murder by decapitation. If you just needed a refresher, a child's head was sawed off there at the end of episode 1. So the castle is being searched for Jaehaerys's murderer or murderers, and Aegon is throwing an absolute shit fit in his quarters with his sword out, destroying Viserys's Lego city.
His model city, yeah.
Which, real bummer. That old man worked very hard for years and years and years to assemble that Lego city.
Some would say that that's his truest legacy.
Like his whole legacy, yeah. Right there.
His life's work was that little model city of Valyria. But Now it's resting in pieces. R.I.P.
It is. Did you notice in the inside the episode they were like, we always knew we were going to get rid of this model, and we just had to like come up with exactly how it was going to go down. I was like, whoa, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why'd you always know? Why was this always? They were like, we always had this in the back of our minds.
Yeah, Ryan Condal said that they always knew that this was going to happen. Basically, like, this was one of their like moments on a storyboard somewhere where we're like, and then we finally get it.
I know.
Aegon destroying the model city.
I just wanted clarity. Like, was that a specific thing in Fire and Blood, the book, that needed to that he knew he wanted to make come to life? Like
the way that he said it, like you could interpret it either way, but the way he said it, just like the twinkle in his eye, made me think that this was not in Fire and Blood.
That it was like his idea.
That this was their idea. That they were like, ooh.
He was super proud of this too.
Eventually, this model city is gonna get destroyed.
Yeah, he's gonna go full Godzilla on this thing. And Aegon is in there he's just yelling, "I declare war," like Michael Scott
like
yells,
Michael Scott declaring,
"I declare bankruptcy,"
yes,
which was like kind of unintentionally funny. But obviously he's very distraught.
You can no longer scream "I declare anything" anymore without evoking the Michael Scott "I declare bankruptcy."
I don't think it's possible.
Right, like it owns that now. And we just have to live with that.
You got to either steer clear of it or accept what it comes with. Aemond realizes that he's kind of like walking around. He's just like scoping out the aftermath of what has occurred. And Aemond realizes that they came in through his room, the murderers. Because he goes and looks at the board, the strategy board, where him and Kristen Cole were placing all the pieces of silver and gold or bronze or whatever that was. And all the coins are all gone except for one underneath the table, which kind of makes him realize, like, oh shit, they came through here and they also robbed me, which gives him guilt because he wasn't there in his room to stop them. Because as we find out later in the episode, he was alone with a whoremaster, butt-ass naked, curled up in the fetal position, looking like Voldemort at the end of Harry Potter, which everyone on the internet was keen to point out last night. I watched the episode twice already. It took me till the second watch to realize what was going on with Aemond here.
Why he's kind of looking around.
I was like, what's he looking for?
Yeah, I didn't.
Is he looking for evidence?
I didn't totally catch that either. I was not clear on what he was kind of like seeing there on the board and picking up the coin. A lot of mentions of coin in this episode, by the way. Mm-hmm. I think the word coin is used as the moniker for money like 3 or 4 times in this episode.
Oh yeah, #coin. But that's what he's doing in there. That's what he's realizing. Like, oh damn it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in this episode dealing with guilt and shame.
Yes.
It's a huge theme here. And Aemond is kind of the second, I guess, because we'll count Aegon as the first. Otto meets with a deeply upset and guilt-ridden Alicent, who believes this is perhaps her fault, and that if Kristen Cole was at his post, instead of shagging her, he perhaps could have stopped this from happening? Question mark?
Yeah, seems like it. Seems like he could have.
But Otto tells her, some good may yet come of this. And Otto is, as also was pointed out online, the Kris Jenner of Westeros, just immediately thinking to use this as a PR opportunity. A baby's death is a PR stunt to this man. It's been 20 minutes, dude. 20 minutes since the kid's head got sawed off, and he's like, there might be something in this for us.
Yeah, I'll add to your theme, because obviously the guilt, everybody's dealing with guilt and shame. And then it's also like just to add to the theme right up front here, it's the guilt and the shame, and then it's how everybody is dealing with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And nobody outside of Helena is basically just like sitting with their grief.
Right.
Right? Like
people
everybody
either burying it.
They're either burying it, or they're going straight to anger, or
numbing it out.
They're numbing the pain with sex, or like destroying a model city, or immediately compartmentalizing and starting to scheme about it.
Otto, yeah.
Being Otto, or like everybody is like, this is the, there's the action, and then there's the reaction, and like nobody has time to chill. Nobody is chilling. Nobody is sitting with this. Nobody is letting their grief be grief. They're just all immediately like finding the outlet to put it in.
What the Red Keep needs desperately is a good therapist, and they just don't have one.
They don't have one.
They just don't have. It's why Aemond has to go seek out his therapy elsewhere, because they just don't have one in the Red Keep, and they would really benefit from one, as we see throughout the course of this episode. People are struggling processing this grief and dealing with the guilt of their own actions. King Aegon meets with his small council and continues really his just like unhinged meltdown. He goes off on Kristen, asks him where he was when the heir was being slain, but Kristen gets kind of lucky and the attention gets drawn away from him quickly. Aegon ends up blaming Rhaenyra because there's question, of course, about who did this, who had Jaehaerys killed, whose fault, who do we blame? And Aegon chooses pretty immediately to blame Rhaenyra, though. He's like, is there any question? Like, she's across the bay laughing at me, is the way he puts it.
I definitely thought somebody was getting got at this small council meeting.
Like he was just going to outright murder one of these guys?
Somebody,
yeah, one of the lesser-known council members whose names we've been wondering. Yeah. Both of which I think got mentioned in this actual scene. Neither of which I wrote down because I'm still confident they'll both die. Larys comes in, the clubfoot, and says they have one of the perpetrators who was caught with the child's head in a bag. So we wondered, did Blood and Cheese escape?
Color me shocked, Ross. I thought Blood and Cheese were in the wind, man. I thought for sure they were getting away with this.
Turns out,
no.
Not exactly. Neither of them got away with it. This dude, Blood, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. It sounds like he tried to just waltz through one of the gates with a bag in his hand.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have bowling balls back then. So if you're holding a bag that looks like that, it's one thing. It's a head, baby. Or a baby's head.
They clearly didn't have a good exit strategy.
No.
It seems like maybe they tried to do the thing where like Thomas Crown style, where you pull the fire alarm and mayhem starts happening and then you just kind of escape with the masses.
Yeah.
This happens in a scene in Mr. and Mrs. Smith earlier this year as well. It's a classic escape technique. Right? Create mayhem and chaos, and then escape with the masses. Yeah,
I love the song during a Thomas Crown affair, the Sinner Man by Nina Simone.
Sinner Man.
Oh my God, the GOAT. Yeah,
great scene.
Yeah.
I think they went with that, but that was dumb. They should have gone back from whence they came. No, shouldn't they have got back down to the sewer?
I think they got out through the sewer, but then escaping the city. Like that was the entrance to the Red Keep.
Okay.
So I think they successfully got out of the Red Keep, but then they both failed to flee the city. And one of the questions that I had and that my wife had here was like, how did they catch these two morons but not Daemon? Like what? Because, obviously we are under the impression that Daemon is waiting out there for them to receive the head and give them the other half of their payment. But is it the case that Daemon perhaps never intended on giving them the other half of their payment and just fled?
Perhaps.
Or is it the case that Daemon was somehow tipped off to the fact that like this happened and these like there's guards and people everywhere?
I mean, honestly, I thought initially that like it would have been Blood and Cheese's job to get Aemon's head back to Dragonstone, basically.
Okay, yeah.
You get the head back to Dragonstone, deliver it all the way. You'll get your other half, and they obviously have no. Like, they can't stay in King's Landing anyway.
I wouldn't think
like,
so.
They need to flee. They need to get on that boat with Massaria to head over to Pentos or wherever.
Yeah. Okay, so you were operating under the assumption that after their meeting, Daemon was like, peace.
Peace, I'm out. Back on the boat, headed across the bay.
Well, back on his dragon, I think, yeah. And then...
doesn't he come over? Doesn't he row over on a boat?
No, well...
Hoodie Daemon?
Actually,
doesn't he come over on a boat?
Yeah, he was. So maybe he landed his dragon... like on a nearby island and took a boat from there because obviously he couldn't just fly into the city.
You can't just fly. Yeah, you
people
can't.
People were like, "Oh, look, it's Daemon on the Bloodworm."
Yeah,
So yeah, he comes over. I guess he did have to go on his boat back to wherever his dragon is posted.
A little paddle.
Yeah.
Boat.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Larys informs them, "Hey, we found this guy. He had Jaehaerys' head in a bag. Sorry." And by the way. Just another example of like people are just kind of walking in and out of rooms willy-nilly on this show this year, and it's kind of bugging me a little bit. Like Larys just trounces into the fucking small council meeting. He's not on the small council. It just something I keep noticing. There was a lot of this.
They need to ratchet up the security.
Well, yeah, clearly, very clearly at this point. But yeah, like Helena just wanders into Alicent's quarters while she's banging Kristen at the end of the last episode. Otto just wanders into Aemon's quarters while he's meeting with Kristen Cole. There's a lot of people just walking in on shit.
I'll add to that. I don't think that the writers and showrunners and creators have probably thought this critically about it, but it's maybe we're just writing it off as like this was like 150, 175 years ago, things were just slightly more chill then.
Yeah, back then you didn't have to lock your doors, Barrett.
The Targaryens,
and the kids could just play in the street.
Yes, exactly. The Targaryens have been ruling for many generations
A while.
at this point.
Yeah.
A while. Things are feeling, there hasn't been much tumult in Westeros. Things are good. Nobody's.
They called him Viserys the Peaceful.
That's right.
His reign was peaceful.
His reign was peaceful. They didn't have people coming in poisoning people and setting off
people poisoning people.
setting off a multitude of wars. It was just a simpler time.
It was a simpler time. You're right.
You got to think that maybe even this war, this war of dragons.
Yeah.
That's what creates. That's the need for more
door locking
and harder security just all around the Red Keep.
Here's a point. Larys, season 1, cranks to Alicent's feet. Did he lock the door before that?
Probably
you know
not.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Just anybody could have walked in on that. Anyway, moving on. Otto tells Aegon at this small council meeting, very point blank, because Aegon's like, I will not be seen as weak. And his grandpapa, who I believe, it's his great-grandpa, right? No, it's his grandpa.
It's his
You're
grandfather.
right.
Although, somewhere in this scene, I do think Otto says Jaehaerys is his grandson.
Which I just don't think they had the term great-grandpa.
Yeah,
or great-grandson.
I think that's probably right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was confused by. Thank you. But Otto tells Aegon, hey, you're already seen as weak by the people because of your hasty coronation and the dragon escaping the pit. So we need to use your dead son as an opportunity to sully the name and reputation of Rhaenyra. And he wants to have a funeral progress, as he calls it, through the city so that people can see the child and, quote, see Rhaenyra's works, right? He says, quote, Jaehaerys will do more for us now than 1,000 knights in battle. And you can see, the wheels turning for Aegon. He's like, okay, mother? No, he needs a second opinion, but he's like, I can kind of get on board with this. Alicent tells him, she seconds Otto's idea, but also doesn't want to be a spectacle. She'll allow her dead grandson to be a spectacle, but she herself is not interested in being a spectacle. Unfortunately, Otto tells her, well, tough shit, you're in the funeral.
Yeah.
You got to go in the wagon. So then Alicent meets with Helena and tells her she also has to be in the funeral wagon, which is just like, oh my God. But for whatever reason, they're like, and I think we can all agree we'll spare King Aegon from having to be, I guess because he's just such a mess.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of weird. We'll put the mom and the grandma in the funeral procession. King himself will stay behind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe they thought he would freak out there. Just have another meltdown out there. Helena also wants nothing to do with this, but has no choice, really.
I'm just now realizing. Sorry, people are going to get mad at me. There's a lot. Helena is her daughter.
Yeah, Helena is Alicent's daughter. Yeah.
But what this speaks to is the what I was going to say is how Alicent, and we see this in even finer detail later on in the episode, doesn't have a lot of maternal instinct, seemingly. No, she has no real she's not there to comfort. She's not there to let somebody cry on her shoulder, right? She's not there to almost a bit. She's just borderline empathizing, right?
Yeah.
But when she's standing in that room with Helena, she's kind of standing far away. She's kind of cold about it. She's like, yeah, this kind of stinks, but we have to.
It's our duty.
There's just no warmth there, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. No, okay, this is an easy thing to forget, but Helena is technically Rhaenyra's sister. Viserys is Helena's dad.
Right.
So,
okay.
And also King Aegon is Rhaenyra's brother.
That's right. That is correct. Yes.
It's one of those things that keeps occurring to me mid-episode. I'm like, this family is screwed up, man. It's easy to forget the complicated nature of this family tree.
All the sibling marriages make things really
even worse,
complicated.
But
and
really
difficult to keep straight. But
it put us on a tough path to begin with when Viserys was like, "Well, your mother is dead. I shall take your best friend as my next wife."
Yeah,
that really fucked us.
Yes.
So but no, technically, Aegon and Rhaenyra are blood relatives.
Yeah,
half brother, half sister, or I guess would be the specific term.
But yeah,
but also Helena.
Alicent, not very maternal, not a lot of warmth to her children in this episode who have just lost their son.
Yes, yeah.
4-year-old son.
No, I think she's struggling so much with her own guilt and shame that she's having a hard time doing anything for anybody else.
Right.
But yeah, Helena does not want to do this. The funeral procession begins, and I'm going to be honest with you. This, not to be insensitive, I immediately thought we were about to have a coffin flop situation. They are rolling him out there, and I'm talking about from the get-go. His head is bouncing around like a bobblehead up there.
When
it's like barely sewed on.
When
dude.
that wheel hits the skids and falls into that little pothole, and then everything's starting to rock around, and the knights are coming up and they're like pushing it with their shoulders and it's rocking back and forth. Once again, this was another moment where if you've seen I Think You Should Leave and you've seen Coffin Flop on Corncob TV, like you were waiting for the body to fall off the top of the wagon.
5 minutes before that.
Oh, really?
From the second we see them wheeling out the whole funeral procession, like his head is up there like you're just like bouncing around, dead baby head. And then they give you the shot that shows you it's like crudely sewn on like Frankenstein style. Like, what the fuck? They don't have a better mortician in there?
I did not know what they were going to show us. I thought that they might leave them separated to for maximum effect.
I thought that for a second too.
In which case, I was hoping that they were not going to show it to us.
Yeah.
So I feel like this was a way to show us the body without like going
it being as traumatizing. I honestly had the exact same thought though. I was like, Otto's a real sick puppy. They're gonna take this kid out there and leave his head disconnected from his body and wheel it around for everyone to see for the full effect. Yeah. But that would have been so incredibly disrespectful, dude. So, this is still anyway. I'm telling you, when you rewatch, look at.
No, I'm
look at the
with
dead
you,
kid's head bouncing around on the fucking. I'm telling you, I was like, oh my God, he's gonna fall off. Yeah. Oh my God, his head's gonna pop off like Petey in Dumb and Dumber. I was so concerned. Like it went so much better than I thought it was going to. Frankly, all things considered, this went a lot better than I thought it was going to.
Yes, but just to come back to it once again, this evoked a sitcom comedy television show. With I Think You Should Leave his Coffin Flop.
Yes.
Because if it crossed our minds, it crossed a lot of people's minds.
It had to have.
Yeah.
So this whole plan that Otto cooks up with the funeral progress going through the city does seem to work, though, at first. Because Helena is getting a ton of sympathy from the crowd. They're showering her with some kind of something or other.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
And also showering her with... compliments and whatnot.
And they're doing the misa thing like they did with
yeah.
They just
reaching up
touch,
to her.
They want
to be close to her. Yeah, to the queen.
They want to lay hands.
Yes. And they've got this guy out front of the wagons yelling, "Behold, the works of Rhaenyra Targaryen, pretender to the throne, kinslayer," and like listing off more insults after that. He's just, he's the propaganda megaphone up there. He's doing his thing. And when the coffin wagon eventually does get stuck, Helena, poor child, has like a full-blown panic attack.
Right.
Like that's a panic attack because of all the people reaching up and yelling, and now they're stopped and they can't move. It feels like there's no escape, and she didn't want to be there in the first place. And her mom are like decked out in these funeral threads too, which also felt pretty stuffy. So, she's having a hard time. The whole thing, tough to watch. Stressful start to the episode, all things considered. This first 15 minutes here, you're just like, holy God, these people. And then they've got Blood locked up in a dungeon where they go and Larys questions him. And Larys unrolls like this, how they do.
The torture kit.
The torture kit, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, no, we're going to have to watch this man get tortured. Yeah. And also, this went better than I thought it would.
Way better. So much better.
Yes.
This was merciful.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I have questions about that. Because, the guy says outright, yo, I see the kit. I see what's about to go down. No need, sir. I was hired by Daemon Targaryen. Just immediately gives up the guy you hired. He's like, also, I worked with a rat catcher. Don't know his name, but he was a rat catcher. We never got to that level. We weren't, close enough to exchange first names. But, which I guess is part of the reason they're known as Blood and Cheese in the books, right? Because you never really get their real names. But Larys is like, tight. Yeah, okay, cool. And the guy's like, you're gonna hurt me? He's like, no, I'm not gonna hurt you. but I can't say the same for his grace. And like the dong ring, it's like dong. It's like, oh shit. In comes Aegon.
Yeah.
And gives the dude a good whack. So do you think the good whack killed him? Because I was like, oh, he just knocked that. Now he's going to torture him. They just didn't make us watch it. I think Aegon went after this guy.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, why unroll the torture kit?
It's hard to say, but that one whack with the spiked mace straight to the dome,
it did some damage.
Probably pretty close to death off that alone.
I mean, it looked like he did, his whole jaw just went bye-bye.
And then I kind of I kind of figured maybe he's just like he's just an animal in there. He can't hold back. He does not have the patience to deal with the torture kit.
Yeah.
He's just going to beat this dude to a pulp with the spiked mace and
bounce.
And bounce.
You're right. Yeah. That's more believable to me.
Yeah.
Than him like gaining composure, sitting down, pulling teeth or toenails or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't strike me as that type of dude. So, yeah. All right. At some point in their lives, most men struggle with sexual confidence like Daemon Targaryen in Season 1. The good news is today's sponsor, Hims, can help. Don't be like Daemon and find yourself unable to perform when the moment arises. With Hims, you will be confident, knowing you can get hard and stay hard. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have time to go to a doctor's office, but through Hims, now you can get treated for ED without stepping foot outside your door. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to doctor-trusted ED treatment options such as chewable hard mints, brand name treatments like Viagra, or generic alternatives for up to 95% cheaper. The process is simple and 100% online. No uncomfortable doctor's visits. You just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option for you. If prescribed, your medication ships to you for free. No insurance is needed. If ED is getting you down, it's time to join the hundreds of thousands of trusted Hims subscribers and get treated today. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/OCC. That's HIMS.com/OCC for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/OCC. Hard mints are chewable compounded products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. Back on Dragonstone. Rhaenyra is told of what happened to Jaehaerys and of the public funeral and of the messages that have been sent from King's Landing to all over the realm blaming Rhaenyra, and one of her advisors tells her the damage to your position is immeasurable. Like, basically, this is very, very bad. This is the worst thing that could have happened. This, like, which, one of the first things we're all considering, at least as Team Black supporters, at the end of episode 1 is like, oh, God, what does this do to...
Yeah, it's bad.
...the momentum that they had, or lack thereof. Mm-hmm. And yeah, this is really, really bad. Otto was right. This was the opportunity, as bad as it was for him to lose his grandson, as bad as it was for Aegon to lose his heir. Aegon's a young man, can make more heirs. Mm-hmm. Got to take advantage of the play the board in front of them, as he puts it in episode 1. So Rhaenyra is confounded that anyone would consider like her being capable of doing this, or that she would think to do this. And Daemon sits there like half smirking, like, whoops. Like, I mean, he's not really doing not super trying to hide it.
No.
That he was in on this. Almost like wants them to acknowledge, oh, you fucker, you did it, didn't you? Damn it, Daemon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And eventually that is what happened. Like, Rhaenyra looks over at him and they have this glance war.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. yeah, this was all me. So she confronts him privately. And Daemon does deny that because you remember we talked on Patreon last week that it's a little bit odd the way they end this scene between Daemon and Blood and Cheese as he is employing them to go and do this thing. They're like, and what if we can't find Aemond? And he just looks at them.
He just kind of, so obviously they show us that scene in the
before,
previously
yeah.
Right. And he kind of smizes. He just kind of like looks at him with that twinkle in his eye.
Yeah, but we don't get the definitive end of the conversation. We don't know that's the last thing he said, right? Yeah, and also one of the things we discussed on Patreon last week is that in the one book, Fire and Blood, It is apparently made to be quite clear that Daemon does in fact want like a kid to be killed. So it's very different the way it plays out in the book. It's one of the things book readers were so upset about. But Daemon denies to Rhaenyra that he told Blood and Cheese basically anyone's head will do if you can't find Aemond, because that's what Rhaenyra is accusing him of.
Right.
And she also accuses Daemon of using her as a tool with which to grasp at his stolen inheritance. Daemon reminds her that it was in fact him who put the crown on her head when Sir Eric brought it. Rhaenyra says she can't trust Daemon. She sees the darkness that he keeps like sheathed. I'll just read this quote. I cannot trust you, Daemon. I never trusted you wholly, much though I wished to, willed myself to. But now I have seen that your heart only belongs to you. And when I was a child, I took it as a challenge, but I am older now, and I have challenges enough. And he replies, I have served you faithfully. And she says, have you? Or have you used me as a tool with which to grasp at your stolen inheritance? It's a very intense scene, and both of them do a phenomenal job.
Yeah, there are a few, at least two, maybe three, very like kind of Shakespearean scenes in this episode where it's just kind of like two or three people, and you could almost like picture them being on a stage.
Yeah,
you know, it's like they kind of soliloquize a little bit. It's a two-hander. It's good back and forth. A lot of big words, a lot of intense emotions, and I always love when they do that. I love because they have the cast to back it up, like Rhys Ifans, Matt Smith, Emma Darcy. I'm pretty sure all of these people have been like on the West End or Broadway or somewhere, and so they're all great at this kind of like very classical style of acting.
Theatrical. Yeah. This was very cool. Very great scene between Matt Smith and Emma Darcy. She asked, "Do you accept me as your queen and ruler, or do you cling even now to what you think you have lost?" They argue over Viserys and why he named Rhaenyra heir. A lot of talk of Viserys in this episode. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, he kind of loomed large in it, for sure.
Really, we just saw the statue in episode 1 as the only real hat tip to Viserys, but this one, Otto brings him up, Rhaenyra's bringing him up, he's coming up all over the place. When this conversation ends between Rhaenyra and Daemon, she whispers, "You're pathetic," and he takes a seat, and he kind of storms out, and she winces when the door slams. Like, that's how much tension has filled this room. What was your takeaway here from this conflict between Daemon and Rhaenyra as a result of Daemon employing two random dudes to kill Aemond, but instead they killed the heir to the king?
I didn't have a huge takeaway from this, honestly. I think this is
kind of expected.
This is a little bit, yeah, and it as tense as it wasn't as explosive as it could have been, and I didn't get the sense that these two people are fully done with each other. And later she goes on to tell Mysaria that Daemon could be gone for a week or he could be gone forever. She doesn't know, but we have not seen the end of Daemon, and there is, as they kind of describe in the inside the episode, right? Like, these two people are super connected. They're very alike in a lot of ways. They do love each other, and so this just felt like another kind of like, maybe it's another Jenga block getting pulled in this
in their relationship.
But like, I don't think that the tower has completely toppled just yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question they want us to ask, right? Was this the end of Daemon and Rhaenyra? Was that bad enough for us to buy that he's not coming back to her, right? The line that brings me back in is between Rhaenys and Corlys, when she's like, if he gets Harrenhal, all will be forgiven.
Right.
I was like,
right.
Okay, there is still a chance. But before that, after watching this scene, the explosive one between Rhaenyra and Daemon, I certainly had my doubts. Just because of the way he leaves, And I mean, one of the other things that occurs to me as I watch this unfold is like, I'm concerned he's going to get violent with her. Like, I was like, oh my God, is he going to choke her again? Because he choked her at the end of season 1.
Right.
But he kind of ends up going a different route this time. It's really, this is what makes Daemon as a character great. It's very tough to read his actual intentions. It's really tough to read if he means what he's saying. If he's being genuine or if he's being deceptive and manipulative.
Yep.
You can't really tell. He stays gray and he loves it that way.
Yep.
Like, he does not want you to know what the fuck he is thinking or what he really feels. He keeps all that shit hidden away. His third heart or whatever.
Like Shogun style.
Eightfold
fence, baby.
Yes. and that makes it very hard. It makes it scary because you're just like, shit, I don't know. He could lop her head off right now. I have no idea what this dude is capable of. Which she tells him point blank, like, I don't really know who you are. I don't really know what to make of you. And she's like clearly rehashing a lot of her decisions she made as a child when she first became infatuated with her uncle. So there's a lot here. Like, I mean, as we've said, like, you know, he groomed her. And she's his niece. It's a terribly weird situation. Like, nothing about Damon and Rhaenyra is normal or couth. So it's like, it's very tough to know what Damon's deal is.
Yeah. Well
but
said.
you have to assume one day we'll find out. So yeah, Damon flies off on the Bloodworm. What is it, Caraxes?
Yeah.
Tight scene.
It's very tight.
Very, very good looking. This is not one where you will find me complaining about what a dragon back situation looks like.
This was rad.
As good as it gets. Yeah, dropping off the side of that cliff. We saw this in a trailer, but like the longer form version of it was even cooler. And then Rhaenyra sends Baela, who is Daemon and Laena Velarion's daughter.
And betrothed to that boy Jace?
Believe so.
Okay.
Sends her to King's Landing with her dragon Moondancer. She's like, I want you to go to King's Landing. Fly high. Stay above the clouds. Check shit out. It's like, what? Immediately, I was like, oh, well, she's dead. There is absolutely no way that plan goes well.
Yeah, this.
Are they aware of Vagar? Do they have? She's just like forgetting about Vagar, like Dany forgot about the Iron Fleet. Like, it'll be fine.
This was an insane move. And also, what does she mean? What does she have, like a
binoculars,
Hubble telescope up there with her?
What the fuck?
How is she supposed to see what moves they're making?
No idea.
From above the clouds.
It doesn't make any sense. The dragon isn't a satellite. She can't just like point it at stuff and hear and see things. That's not what we're dealing with. I have no clue, dude. I was so confused. And my other takeaway was like, Jace just volunteered. And she's like, no. Or maybe that's later in the episode that he volunteers. But at some point he volunteers to go. And she's like, absolutely not. Already lost your brother Lucerys.
Right.
I'll send one of Daemon and Laena's kids.
Yeah.
Not even her own, blood. So or kin. So it's a weird move here for Rhaenyra. And I mean, like, I get it. She's scrambling a little bit, but like, God, Baela's toast. Absolutely toast.
Doesn't seem good for her. No.
Yeesh. King Aegon and Queen Helena pass each other in the castle on the stairs, but they don't speak. And it was like a couple options. One, he didn't know what to say, which who would, they've just lost their son to a gruesome murder. Or it was like he didn't care what she was going through and didn't really care to stop and take the time to make sure she was okay.
A lot of potential reads here. And they talk about this one in the inside the episode and about how this is almost more of like an acknowledgement of each other's grief and like they're the only two people that are dealing with this, that know this grief.
Yeah, I had a hard time with that.
Not how I read it. This was way more of like Aegon is, for me, Aegon is continues to look for somebody to blame, and this is another option. She was there. She was with the kids. She
didn't stop it.
She wasn't able to stop it. Somehow their daughter's still alive, but their son's not.
I am 100% with you, dude. I did not like that context they tried to add in the inside the episode. I was like, whoa. You're trying to tell me this is a moment of connection between these two people? He looks at her with almost disdain or disgust.
That's how I read it.
And is like, I can't say shit to you. I can't even talk to you. And then just keeps on going.
Yeah.
And then she shakes her head like, yep, it's just me. I'm alone with this. I'm going to have to deal with this by myself. That fucker is not on my team. I was so weirded out by that explanation in the inside the episode, man.
It was interesting, for sure.
Yeah. A tense moment, though.
Yep.
There in the castle. What else? Kristen Cole visits Jaharis' chambers where they're like removing the murder scene, like taking out the mattress.
Ross, this guy stinks.
He's so bad, dude. He just goes in there and he loads up on more guilt and shame. The man is addicted to shame at this point. Yeah. He's just in there like, oh, this is all my fault. I'm the worst. I'm so bad. Oh my God, I suck so much. That's what fuels him as a person.
And that's what makes him such a shitty person. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Alicent asks him, he's standing guard outside of her door. She asks if he's told anyone about them, presumably, or about where he was when this happened, is another option there. But he responds, what do you take me for? And she says, one who seeks absolution. And he says, there is none for what I've done.
Which I thought was nicely reflected later in the episode when she is also clearly seeking absolution. And her dad,
She doesn't get
like,
it.
I don't want to hear it.
Not from me, lady.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Your freaky ass deals with whatever you got going on because it's not my thing.
But it painted this scene
you're absolutely right.
in a kind of new light, right? Because she's kind of almost like accusing him. Like, I know you want to be forgiven.
Yeah, you want to be free of all this. And he's like, no, I don't.
But so does she.
Yeah, well, I mean, but also I genuinely believed his answer. I think he knows there is no being forgiven for what he's done. His whole... It's a different version of what Ned Stark dealt with. Ned Stark was so honorable to a fault. Mm-hmm. Kristen Cole was so honorable, or he wanted to be so honorable, but like he gets seduced by Rhaenyra, and then the second she spurns him, he's like, well, there's no going back. I've already screwed my life up. Everything is forfeit. I might as well continue to be the biggest piece of shit in the world. And that I feel like that's kind of his character. Like, he has no intention of being redeemed. He has no intention of absolution. He's now going down on, Rhaenyra's former best friend / stepmom. His family. But yeah, that guy sucks. So Alicent shuts the door, does not bring him into her quarters, goes and bathes alone, and she kind of lets herself sink down below the water, right? Just letting us further know she's going through it. She's dealing with it.
And also just I thought another very metaphorical little scene here that just flagged for me, that it just kind of felt like at this moment, especially just within the context of the episode, everybody is just kind of stewing in it right now.
And she's drowning,
Everybody's
dude.
just soaking in it.
She's drowning in it. Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. I mean, this was... Look, the more you pick this first 2 episodes of this show, this season of this show apart, the more you appreciate the depth of the storytelling, because it is truly, truly well done television here. So Kristen Cole approaches Sir Arik with an A for asshole, and he takes all of his internal guilt and shame and just throws it at that dude for having a dirty cloak.
Yeah.
Because he hadn't had time to clean his cape since they were down there doing the funeral. He says, quote, "The white cloak is a symbol of our purity, of our fidelity." Everyone watching nearly pukes as he throws that line out, just like he becomes more hateable by the scene. He asks Arik where he was when the heir was killed. He stops short of straight up accusing, being like, this is entirely your fault.
He comes pretty close
but
to it,
he's as close as he could be, man. Arik asks Cole why Helena has been given no sworn protector, which is a question we asked on Patreon. We're like, okay, it's easy to, I get it. There's a bunch of ways to rationalize the lack of guards and how easy it was for Blood and Cheese to get around. And everybody knows the rat catchers mostly work at night and they're just kind of given free reign to go and do as they please. But the queen not having a sworn protector when Alicent has a sworn, her slutty mom has a sworn protector, makes absolutely no sense.
No,
and so this was I love this line here because it gives us some reason.
Yeah, you know how like presidents, once they're no longer president, they get a security detail or whatever, but they don't get to fly Air Force One anymore. They don't have 48 secret security servicemen and women at their back, at the ready the whole time. They're no longer president. The security.
It's a different level of security.
It's a different level of security. That's how I feel about Alicent. Why does she still get the
head
commander
of the
Kingsguard as her sworn protector?
The main guy?
It seems like...
Who's Aegon's sworn protector?
Right, yes. Yeah, it seems like the head of the Kingsguard should be the sworn protector of the king and the queen, or at least one of them. And then maybe Alicent, well, you're sorry, but you're queen mother now, you get one of the new guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying she shouldn't have anybody, but she should not have Kristen Cole. And if she has somebody, Helena should surely have somebody. So here's how I took this line between Arik and Cole. When he asks, why has Helena been given no sworn protector? That to me was Arik being you're dropping the ball, dude.
You're shitty.
You suck at this job. Yeah. Your brain and dick is elsewhere. You are not focused on the task at hand. I thought that was a beautifully delivered line there from Arik to kind of give us fill in some of the gaps and answer some of the questions we've had. Sir Kristen Cole stinks. So he also asks Arik, or he tasks him, really. He doesn't ask. He's like, you're going to go to Dragonstone and slay Rhaenyra by taking advantage of your twinliness, is what I'll call it. And it kind of seemed like Kristen Cole, first of all, knew this was a suicide mission. The way he talks him into it, he's like, oh, man, you're going to get so much glory, bro. This is because he's like, you're sending me to my death. You think I'm an idiot? You think I don't know what this is? He's like, no. Death maybe, or glory. And Arik's like, all right, well, I don't have much of a choice now, do I? He literally doesn't have a choice.
Coming out of Peter the Great's mouth, this could be a very funny exchange.
Absolutely. It still was kind of funny, honestly, because it's like.
But coming from Kristen, it just. Boy, it really reeks. How is Kristen stacking up for you? Is he climbing your villain ranks?
Oh, yeah.
He's working his way to the top for me.
He's got serious momentum in a season where I am 110% confident he's going to get a lot worse by the end of this thing.
Yeah.
I'll have more to say about Kristen at the end of the episode, okay? But yeah, so This was creepy because like I remember hearing rumors about this, rumblings about this, like how Arik and Eric would like this whole situation that we see unfold in this episode, like twin on twin. I kind of remember hearing that was going to happen. So when Cole tasks him with that, I was like,
okay,
oh shit, no way. Like I just kind of started to feel dread about how this episode was going to end.
I think we can safely say for all properties going forward, if Gurm puts two guys that are brothers on opposite sides, they're going to end up fighting.
They're going to kill each other. 100%. Dat boy Jace goes and talks with Bela, who, again, I'm
pretty sure betrothed. Yeah.
Betrothed.
Yeah.
Says he thinks Damon is going to Harrenhal, so we get a little answer there. That's another thing that made me feel like, okay, people are aware of where Damon was headed before he stormed out. So it's not like he stormed out and left, and it was so shocking to everybody that he left. They're like, oh, yeah, he was going to go do the Harrenhal thing. Bela also talks with Jace about like his parentage. They talk about Harwin Strong.
Yeah.
Bring up his nickname and shit. Like, so it's very clear that that's like being acknowledged in the inner circle here.
That is what it would seem. Yes.
That Jace has like an appreciation for both versions of his story.
Yeah.
Right? Between
the fathers.
Laenor. How many times have we done that over the years? Laenor and Harwin, right? There's like the on paper version, and then there's like the blood version.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to have a problem talking about either one, which just made you feel good about Jace in terms of like his own identity, that he really gets to like, accept himself for who he is.
Yeah.
Cool little scene between them, but also really furthered my fear that we may never see Bela again after next episode.
Good head on the shoulders, and a good hair on top of that head.
Yep.
That boy Jace.
Oh, yeah. That boy Jace, dude. He's got that flow. Aemond is naked in a pleasure house, curled up, like I said, like Voldemort, with some, like, whoremaster. He's really going through it.
Tell me about this scene, Ross.
Okay.
What was this?
Okay. So, beginning of the episode, when we see Aemond, he realizes, oh, shit, I could have stopped this. He's so riddled with guilt that he wasn't there, that he goes back to where he was. Ironically, he goes back to the whorehouse. And he says, I do regret that business with Luke. I lost my temper that day. I'm sorry for it. He brings up how like they used to tease him. He says, because I am different.
Yeah.
And I think, I had to think about this for a few. I was like, what's the deal here? What is this?
Yeah.
Like, because this was really weird, man. Also, I just had no idea he was that skinny.
Me neither.
He says, I am saying, I think this is the whorehouse where Aegon took Aemond when he was a boy, and he has been using this whore as a therapist / mother figure, like ever since a la George Bluth and Job Bluth.
Right, okay.
So remember in season 1 when Aemond and Kristen Cole are looking for Aegon, and they go to that one whorehouse, and the whore says, wow, like you've really grown up. To Aemond, she's telling Aemond, like, I remember you, dude.
Yeah.
You totally came through here.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure that's this woman.
Okay.
And so he has, like, developed this relationship with her where I think it's also sexual, but in this scene, it's more of, like, a mother figure thing.
Well, then this is another, thank you for the insight here, because this is another kind of, addition to the idea that Allison is not
100%
a great mother. Like
not present.
Or at least not a present, warm, maternal figure in the lives of these children.
Absolutely.
That they are having to like seek that out elsewhere or not have it. Yeah. Okay. This guy, the body.
Yeah.
Not to body shame.
No.
But I'm no longer like scared of him.
Yep, that was a problem, dude. He's emaciated. Like
That's exactly how we described it. Like gaunt, maybe would be like a slightly more generous term. But this dude looked like he weighed like 90 pounds.
Yeah,
He's,
man.
What, 6'2"? Like this, I'm a little surprised that they gave that to us because he is supposed to be kind of a fearsome guy, right? Like kind of this.
Yeah,
you know, like at some point,
the most feared weapon duo in the Seven Kingdoms between him and Vhagar.
And you know, a non-zero chance that he and Daemon like have like some type of like duel at some point.
It's a certainty, I believe. I think at this point, like even he even says like in this scene, he's like, I'm pretty like honored that Daemon considered me that much of a threat,
right?
That he would try to have me whacked.
But yeah, now I'm just like, I'm not that Matt Smith is some like yoked dude, but now I just know that this guy could like kind of be broken like a twig.
That was my next thought. I was like, oh man, is Matt Smith this skinny? It's like, how much is this armor making these guys look like they're bigger than they are? Weirdly, not to bring up Shogun again, for those of you who didn't watch, but that's on you. You should have, and you should commit the coup at once. In Shogun, there's like a couple of scenes where like Yabushige takes off his robes, and I was like, oh, he's just a little fella. Again, not body shaming. Like I'm a skinny dude who's had trouble like putting on weight at different points in my life. But that is a very little dude.
It reminded me. It did. I also recalled Shogun and how a lot of those dudes, you know,
samurai.
The samurai were slighter builds. But I mean, just like there's a lot that goes into that, and none of them were as live as Aemond here.
Yeah, this was something.
This was skinny.
It was jarring.
Real skinny.
It was definitely jarring. And I think it's supposed to play into his character even more, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have given it to us if there wasn't a built-in reason.
Yeah, I'm sure they considered this because it's a pretty clear like they linger on that kind of bird's eye fetal position, Voldemort-y view. And
that they used to tease me because I am different line, I think mixes in with it. And because I think a lot of people probably took that at face value, no pun intended, like, oh, yeah, well, because he only has one eye. He's different. No. They were teasing him before the eye thing happened.
The eye thing.
Like, he was getting bullied, dude. So, yeah, Aemond is going to be an interesting character to keep an eye on. But I feel, yes, that very much this set us up even further for, like, Aemond versus Daemon. And in my mind, I was like, well, Daemon's going to snap this dude in half. Yeah. What is this?
Yeah.
Okay, so we also check in with Hugh, who's the dude in charge of smithing who asked King Aegon to be paid up front last week. Just very quickly here, he has a sick daughter, which is supposed to give you like more fuel for why you understand his struggle as a common person, right? His wife says the markets are running low on food since the blockade has caused the wealthy to hoard everything they can. So they're not in a position yet where King's Landing has run out of food. It's just that that's a fear.
Yep.
So the wealthy, much like during the COVID days when they were buying up all the toilet paper so that us common folk had none, the wealthy are hoarding everything.
Yeah.
And so like this is a problem. She had to walk 2 hours to secure one chicken, and she had to pay 3 times as much as she should have, man.
Shouts to this scene. This is the first time that we have spent this much time with the small people, with commoners, since like the dad and daughter that end up freezing to death in 5 or 6 of Game of Thrones, where the Hound and Arya come across them.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
like Game of Thrones, and it was a complaint that was lodged every once in a while. It's like, or at least just a critique of the show's larger vision, which is like didn't really care about the small people, didn't really care about the lives of the common folk. So I thought this was really cool to get because it's not a super long scene, but it's very. I thought it was cool to check in with this family, and we've seen this guy before. He didn't pop out of nowhere. I know that. I saw him. I remembered him.
Yes, that's huge.
But yeah, I like this, and I hope we continue to get these little like how does this all affect it? And this also ties. I thought this tied to the line from Aemon's madam or whatever she was.
Oh yeah,
where she says typically when princes get angry, it's like the small people who suffer.
Yeah. Yep.
And so
great point.
Just the whole this war between these two insane mixed families,
really one big mixed family.
Mixed family, right? Like in the end, like there will be lots of bloodshed, but the people that will suffer the most are
and we see that here. Hugh, like you said, it definitely flagged for me when in the scene with Aegon on the throne and Otto kind of having to correct him over and over, and we got the guy asking if he can have his sheep herd made whole or whatever, it flagged for me that there was another guy after the sheep guy. So I was like, do we really need another example to show us that Aegon doesn't know what he's doing? But I think this is part of why. Like, I can't tell yet if they're just going to use Hugh as a character to do some things or if he's really, really going to end up mattering. But this scene was interesting. They also, him and his wife, share some, like, you know, communist ideals with each other. Like, she's like, basically, I can't blame anybody else for doing what I would do if I was in their position. And he says, quote, I don't think you'd let children go hungry while you filled your own cellars. Mm-hmm. And she's like, well, thankfully we'll never have to know because we're broke and you're not doing anything about it. Anyway, there was some interesting, like...
Thankfully we don't have enough coin to know, do we?
Right.
This is another coin line.
They were getting into, like, ideologies there, though, right? Like this concept of wealth and wealth distribution that was a little bit interesting. Hugh says the king has promised them some relief, but didn't say when. I think that's him realizing it's not going to happen. We get a quick scene with Alan and his brother Adam. You remember Alan?
Of course, Alan with a Y.
Adam, 2 Ds. Double D Adam is what we'll call him. And they reunite after Alan's voyage to somewhere. It doesn't really matter. Again, I mentioned it on Patreon. I'm pretty sure these dudes are Corlys's bastards, and I'll give you some more evidence here. Adam sees a dragon. He's on the beach. He's hunting for crabs. Dragon flies overhead. He's enamored by it. I think they're going to be dragon riders, these two guys.
All right.
They're going to be in the longer term battle.
Yeah, they've certainly planted the seeds with these guys for just kind of seemingly like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
This is obviously something that's going to matter. We've seen these guys. We've seen Adam Alan in both episodes now. Something's coming.
Yeah. And this is my read. This is my.
But I will say,
I smell it.
Double D Adam, he did not have the shock of blonde hair. He had black hair.
You're right.
So could be a little
wrinkle there for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you were saying that
I was
Alan was purposely bald because
he can't have the silver hair grow out.
He doesn't want the silver
hair. Or everyone will know.
Out. Yeah.
But then his brother doesn't. Yeah, that kind of screwed me up a little bit. I'm still staying on my.
Could be.
Look,
yeah.
We all know that if I stick to a theory, it means that theory will never, ever, ever play out. So we can safely say that neither of these men is related to Corlys in any way by blood, and somehow they will end up being the furthest thing possible from dragon riders.
No. I think the theory that may not pan out for you is the blonde hair one on Alan.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll see it up. It's like season 3.
Because they're talking about Corlys, right?
Yeah.
And Adam says, like, he owes you or something.
Right.
Like, he owes us.
He owes both of us.
Both of us, yeah.
Because you saved his life. Or, there's something's going on there. I'm pretty sure they're his bastards, which would then make them able to be dragon riders if they do, in fact, have Valyrian blood.
They also, I mean, just to throw out the rebuttal or the maybe evidence that they're not the sons, though, they're also talking about him in like, oh, you got to jump at the chance to work for Corlys if you can, like to sail with this guy.
Right. Like the way anybody would look at it. Not necessarily a relative or like a bastard that might have some extra advantage. Like, Yeah, that's also how I read that. Yeah. Corlys and Rhaenys discuss the situation with Daemon and whether or not he'll challenge Rhaenyra. They're in bed. They brag about having just had sex, basically. He makes a little, flirty, sexy line about enjoying being commanded.
Yes.
And then Rhaenys says about Daemon, if he can take Harrenhal, all will be forgiven, which I already referenced. The best way to learn a language, immersion, living where the language is spoken and using it every day. But if that's not in the cards this year, you can still learn a language the second best way, and that's with Babbel. And wouldn't you know it, today's episode is also brought to you by Babbel. Be a better you this year with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works and will ensure you never sound as goofy as Massaria when you speak. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't really help you speak the language. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Babbel is designed by real people for real conversations. Babbel's tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching, so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Babbel's courses are incredibly convenient. I've used them to try and regain my grasp on Spanish, and they make it super easy to learn how to order food, ask for directions, or speak to merchants without having to consult language apps while out and about or on vacation in a foreign land if you're a traveler. Studies from Yale Michigan State University, and others continue to prove Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee, Barrett.
Como se dice dragon in español?
It's good. Dragon. Here's a special limited time deal just for the Clam Fam. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/OCC. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/OCC, spelled BABBEL.com/OCC. Rules and restrictions may apply. So Rhaenyra is studying some book on dragons when Mysaria is brought to her, and I just want to point to that book really quickly. I don't know if it'll matter at all, but it was a little weird. She turns to a page where a blonde woman is commanding a dragon to roast either people or a building or something, and I was just like, wait a minute, is that her or is that...
This is in the scene where she's playing with her kids?
No. It's in the scene where Mysaria is brought into her quarters.
Okay.
Yeah, she just very quickly is at her desk, has a book, opens it up, and it's a blonde chick with a dragon flaming something. Anyway, if you have context for what that was and you're on Patreon, call in and let us know, because that was interesting to me. But Mysaria...
Unless it's spoilery.
Of course, if it's spoilery, obviously don't tell us. But it seemed like that was something. It was a nod to something. Mysaria, I'm pretty sure, okay, my read was that she ends up warning Sir Eric with an E and saving Rhaenyra's life, right?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rhaenyra remembers Mysaria from Dragonstone years ago when Daemon said he was going to marry her, then she was pregnant with his child, and Mysaria asks Rhaenyra to honor Daemon's word and give her freedom because Daemon has bounced. Mysaria tells Rhaenyra about her journey to become who she is and says she wanted to be of consequence, but now she sees that these men in power will never accept her and she might as well have remained a whore, which I feel had to connect with Rhaenyra. It's kind of like a moment where Rhaenyra's fuck, that's my exact circumstances. No matter what I do, I don't get the respect from these dudes who are actually calling the shots, like Daemon, for example. She ends the conversation, Rhaenyra, by asking Mysaria, how did you get that scar? And Mysaria doesn't answer. And this really bugged me because I was like, what scar? I even rewatched the scene trying to find a scar.
Oh, you can't see that big scar on her neck?
It's on her neck?
Yeah.
Oh, I was looking on her face.
No, it's like this. It's very noticeable.
Was the implication that Daemon gave her the scar?
Maybe. I'm not sure. We've seen Daemon choke Rhaenyra.
Yeah.
So we could put those two things together, but this was this almost looked more of like a rope scar or like a what's it called when you are
you're hung?
Get garroting or garroting somebody, when they
a mafia hit?
Yeah.
With a piano wire?
Right. So it was that kind of thin thing. So it was some type of asphyxiation, choking scar, it would seem. I guess it could have been a knife. It was
just weird that it went unsaid. She's like, how'd you get that scar? And Mysaria almost looks at her like, you know how I got that scar.
Yeah,
and then the scene just ends.
It also, they're having this conversation. It's like they're eyeing each other up. They're feeling each other out a little bit. And my read here was like there's a little bit of progress in the communication between them, maybe.
Definitely.
And then she kind of deads it. She ends it with that line. It's almost meant to she's throwing something in Mysaria's face.
Huh.
She was like, oh, it was almost like oh yeah, well, how'd you get that scar? And Mysaria's kind of taken aback, oh, okay, I'll leave.
Yeah, there were moments.
And so it was tough to read, and I don't know exactly what that was meant to be, but but the Daemon connection is the most obvious one, especially given what happens next, because Laura mentioned her a potential logical next step, which is that Mysaria actually gets brought back into the fold here, and it's more like the Laris to Rhaenyra.
I do think that's a very good possibility. Lara is Barrett's wife, by the way. But yeah, this was a weird scene. There was a point where I was like, is she sizing her up or is she attracted to her? Because the way she's looking her up and down kind of repeatedly, Rhaenyra does these very intense eyes, and then they end up kind of connecting with each other. It was all in all.
Right.
Very tough to get a read, especially because of that last line.
Yeah.
How'd you get that scar? It's like, what the fuck? Okay, moving on. Hugh is now walking through the streets of King's Landing. He sees all the rat catchers hung up from the castle walls. Cheese is up there.
Yeah, they got him.
His dog misses him, even though he was an abusive piece of shit human to his dog, which dogs are loyal, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Now, they killed every single rat catcher. That's the problem here. So Otto flips out on Aegon for killing all the rat catchers. Says he undid basically all of the goodwill that they built up through Jaehaerys' death. And he's pointing, like he says, like the rat catchers, there were fathers and brothers and sons, and now their wives and mothers and children are like mourning at the city gates and cursing your name.
Yeah.
Otto insults Aegon repeatedly, like over and over and over and over, to the point that, like, if you're watching the show and paying close attention, you start to see what's coming here. You're like, oh my God, this is it. This is Otto's last scene as Hand of the King. He's 100% going to get canned here. Mm-hmm. Otto's reaction when Aegon says, like, at least I acted. Sir Criston Cole has acted. When Otto does the slow turn to the camera, like, you've got to be kidding me. I can't believe I'm having to deal with these two morons. Incredible facial acting, as we call it, Barrett. And he says, and what has Sir Criston Cole done? Just great. He says he sent Sir Auric to slay Rhaenyra. And Otto replies, alone? And Aegon's like, yeah, he's pretending to be his own twin. Brilliant. Otto looks like he wants to die. And Cole says it's time the bitch queen paid a price just to make you hate him just a little bit more before we get to the finale.
Yeah.
Brutal. Otto evokes Viserys' good qualities, including dignity, which gets Aegon to respond, fuck dignity, I want revenge. And Otto tells Aegon that Viserys was right about him. He's like, what do you mean? He made me king. And he's like, ha, ha, ha.
That laugh that he does off screen is also really funny. Yeah,
is that what you think? Letting him know, like, he absolutely did not pick you. I picked you. I'm the one who put you here.
Yep.
And then Aegon fires him. And then, in the most shocking twist, probably in the season so far, he pins the fucking thing on Criston Cole. Well, I guess we don't get to see him pin it on him yet, but...
No, give it to Sir Cole.
I was like, no. You've got to be kidding me. Otto says, you wouldn't dare. And he's like, I have dared, and I find it stimulating. And he says, my new hand will be a steel fist. And Otto throws the pin at Cole's feet and walks out. And it blew my mind.
Yeah.
This completely fucked me up, Barrett.
This is like giving like a really important, like a CFO job at your new company to like your friend from childhood because you think he's funny.
Yeah,
you know?
That's just a drunk ass.
Just a terrible, terrible, terrible decision all around to give this guy any more power than he already has. Love this scene though. Also, I this Tom Glencarney guy that's playing Aegon.
Mm-hmm.
The more he shows up in the inside the episodes, the more I understand why they're letting him cook a little bit with Aegon, because he does seem like a really chilled, like, cool guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like some of that is coming through, like, and it's got to come through in this kind of unhinged way to play Aegon. But I would be surprised if this character has any of that little, like, kind of smirky funniness humor about him in the book.
Oh, I don't think I doubt very much that anybody has that kind of humor in the book.
True, it's a good point. It's not really a novel.
I don't think it's colorful that way.
Yeah. But so I like what they're doing with him, because just in contrast to somebody like the Joffrey or Ramsay, who we would cut to those actors, and it's kind of hard to separate them a little bit.
Yeah.
You're like, there's something about you.
Joffrey,
like,
especially.
There's a reason why you're good at playing this role. They cut to Tom Glencarney, and I'm just like, man, I want to hang out with this dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a beer with that guy.
Yeah. So
that's what that's what he's bringing to the table with Aegon, though, that is so conflicting. Because, like, we all know deep down, this dude's a monster.
Right.
But then at the same time, there are elements of him where you're like, I don't know, he's kind of cool.
But
then he pins the thing on
him. Bringing the he's like, because they're twins. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Otto's facial expressions were killing me.
Yeah, and then yes, there. Obviously, there's that line was like, oh, is that what you think? You think he named you king, and that's how you got on the throne,
right?
Regardless of what Otto knows or doesn't know or suspects about what his daughter said about the little meeting with her and Viserys there at the end. The point is, they had to pull like 10 different levers and manipulate a shitload of things and act really, really quickly to make sure this happened. Like, even if Viserys did say that.
Yeah.
Nobody but Alicent heard it. And to everybody else, Rhaenyra was still the heir. So it's only through like their quick handiwork and him especially, like orchestrating all of it, that he's up there.
Yes.
So that's I think there's obviously some question about, what does he really think? Like, does he actually believe that Aegon was ever intended to be king, or does he know deep down that it was always supposed to be Rhaenyra? Maybe not. It doesn't really matter. They had to put in work to get this guy up there, and that's what he's saying here.
Yeah, this was a really, really heavy scene, all things considered, because what you're left with is the idea that it's just Aegon ruling with Kristen frickin' Cole as his hand, which like that is not going to go well for anybody who, for whatever reason, was maybe thinking it would. It's not.
I will also say, obviously, hanging all of the rat catchers was a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
I still think in the eye of public opinion, Rhaenyra is looking worse still.
Yeah, I had a hard time buying into the people of Flea Bottom are really concerned about the rat catchers.
Like, I don't think it can't, like Otto kind of talks about it as if it's like canceling the goodwill that they just gained out.
Absolutely he does, yeah.
And I don't think it's that, I personally I don't think it's that severe.
Rat catchers on one side of the scale, heir to the throne's head sawed off on the other side of the scale. Come on, let's be reasonable. But I mean, I do understand the overarching point is that like you are now muddying our situation.
Totally.
And giving people a reason and opportunity to turn against you and dislike you.
Yes.
But when he put it up against Jaharis' murder, I was like, whoa, dude, pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Regardless of me seeing the point he's trying to make. Today's episode is also brought to you by the audio fiction podcast A Better Paradise, which hit #1 on Apple's fiction charts at launch. From the writers of the Red Dead Redemption and the Grand Theft Auto series comes a new immersive audio fiction podcast, A Better Paradise Volume 1 and Aftermath. This sci-fi thriller audio drama is the very first story in an expansive new universe from Absurd Ventures. Set in the near future, A Better Paradise tells the story of the ill-fated development of an ambitious but addictive digital game world project led by inventor and psychologist Dr. Mark Tyburn. As the advanced software they developed began delivering unexpected and disturbing results, the team fell apart under strange circumstances, and the project was abandoned. The game world and the superintelligence within were discarded, left dormant, and undiscovered. Until now. A Better Paradise is created and written by Dan Houser, the co-founder of Rockstar Games, who was the creative director and lead writer of the Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, and Bully video game series, among others. The series is directed by Dan's longtime creative partner, Laszlo. A Better Paradise features an all-star cast, including Andrew Lincoln of The Walking Dead, Shamir Anderson from John Wick 4 and Invasion, Patterson Joseph from Wonka, and Rain Spencer from The Summer I Turned Pretty. I am 2 episodes into the show. It is truly enthralling. I'm having a blast listening on my drives to and from work. Episode 4 actually dropped today. Can't wait to get to it later this week. A Better Paradise is out now and available everywhere.
Giving you some Grand Theft Auto, giving you some Three Body Problem, giving you some startup vibes.
Maybe like a mix of all of the above,
those,
baby. Yeah. A Better Paradise is out now and available everywhere you get your podcasts. Go listen today, and don't forget to follow A Better Paradise on your platform of choice to make sure you never miss an episode. A Better Paradise. Rhaenyra frees Mysaria. On Mysaria's way out of the city, she passes Sir Arik with an A for asshole walking in. She recognizes this and turns back because she was literally just with his twin Eric. So if you were confused, like, wait a minute, what tipped her off? She was literally just in the room with Eric and Rhaenyra. So when she's walking out and she sees a guy that looked just like Eric coming in, she's also aware that there are 2 of them.
She knows,
Remember the line that they give us in the previously on House of the Dragon, too. She's like, last time I saw you, there were 2 of you. And you're like, okay, does she have to talk that way? So she smells trouble. Arik walks right in past the guards into Dragonstone because he has the same exact outfit as his brother because Rhaenyra didn't give her Queensguard new threads, which was a mistake we now know. Eric nearly sees him in the halls. They do like the, that whole thing. Rhaenyra gets into bed. She's prepping to sleep. Arik comes in and prepares to kill her. And he says, believe me, I had no choice. And Rhaenyra, one of the things about the scene that I was like, what? Rhaenyra's pretty she's just like, you know what I mean? She like doesn't even try to really defend herself. She's like, oh no, from her bed, like curled up. I get it. It's a terrifying situation, but I was just kind of shocked by her lack of inaction here. But right as Arik goes to like strike, Eric bursts in the door and he's just like, brother! And we have a good old fashioned brother fight here. Really tough to tell who's who during the fight.
Very difficult. Very difficult.
I had to rewatch it to get a really good read on like which guy is winning and when and who's landing which blow because they don't want us to know. They're like trying to make it tricky.
Did you end up reading that good brother dies first and then bad brother falls on his sword at the end?
No. I read that good brother wins and then falls on his sword at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the opposite.
You're saying Auric won.
Yes.
So why didn't Auric kill Rhaenyra after killing his brother?
Okay. First, I'm pretty sure that good Eric with an E is the one that gets his thigh sliced.
That is correct.
Well, that's the guy that dies first.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's right. But okay, let's go with your version of events.
So we'll go with my version here. So that happens, and then Auric with an A, who loves his brother and just had to kill him and didn't really want to do this in the first place.
Yeah.
One is badly injured as well, I believe. And two, the castle knows now. So he's not leaving alive.
Right. It's over.
It's over. So
in your version of events.
In my version of events.
Yes.
And so that's if it had been Eric with an E still standing, then why does he kill himself?
Twin bond.
Okay.
Just had to kill his brother.
Can't live with it.
Can't live with it. Also, maybe a little bit of the injury thing in there too. I'll be frank with you. I think either of those is a good way of looking at this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give respect to your version of events.
Okay.
But I'll give my version of events, which is that guy with the thigh injury.
Yeah.
His brother does the cheap shot, like digs into it.
Right.
He falls over, recover. Well, no, because now when I'm replaying it in my head, it does look like that Eric is the one that dies.
That's the one that gets stabbed, yeah.
It would definitely be more interesting if bad Auric, with an A for asshole, does win this fight, and then instead of choosing to go through with the mission, just apologizes and falls on his sword, because that's somehow even more tragic and crazy. But my reasoning was Eric with an E is so broken by having to kill his own brother that he's just like, look, I protected you. I've done my duty here, but I can't go on. I'm sorry.
Very sad either way.
Either way, yeah.
Tough to see these brothers have to do this.
Great fight scene, though.
Yeah.
Great fight scene. During the fight, Sir Laurent comes in to get Rhaenyra, and even he's like, which is Eric? So Auric, in Barrett's version of events, which we will go with moving forward, Auric commits the coup, commits seppuku, which I didn't. There's just a lot of Shogun happening here. Yeah. He says, "Your Grace, forgive me," and then the end of the episode is Otto telling Alicent that he's been sacked. He's leaving for Old Town. He says that Alicent has a son in Old Town who is a better listener than Aegon. His name is Darren.
Yeah.
Darren D. Sproles is just down there and fucking... I don't know who Darren is. I don't know if we're going to deal with Darren, but that seemed like a big deal to just like throw out a kid. Is it one of her kids with Viserys?
It's got to be.
Daeron. Okay, well, we got Darren in Old Town, who Otto's going to go treat with for some reason.
No, he's not going to, though.
Oh, he's not going to?
No. That's what he says he's going to do.
Oh, okay.
And then she's like, "Nah, you got to go to Highgarden."
You're right. Yeah.
And parlay with the Tyrells because they're wavering.
Okay, got you. Otto says, "The young are peacocks, all shrieking in feathers, but we will yet prevail and bring forth peace. I still believe it, as long as you and I hold fast." And Alicent is like, "I have sinned." He's like, "I do not wish to hear it." My wife said that was him going, "I know, ho."
Yeah.
Because we know he's aware of Alicent's activities. So Alicent walks past her son Aegon, the king, who is weeping, does not console him, as Barrett said.
Yeah, like comes in, like sees that he's a mess, and
she's like, "Huh, that's a shame."
Yeah.
Whoop, got my own shit to deal with. Sorry.
I mean, like this. So yeah, and this was, she could not deal with this. She could not comfort him. She could not put her arm around him.
Didn't even try.
Walks out immediately, finds her own solace in her own continued guilt and shame. Sexy times with Kristen Cole.
The good old-fashioned anger bang.
Yeah.
They have slap sex. A little slap and tickle. 2 episodes in a row end with Alicent and Kristen boinking. And I wonder if this relationship will be of consequence, Barrett. They're really laying it on thick at this point. Like, they're building Kristen Cole so much through this episode especially. We're just given reason after reason after reason to hate him more and more and more. But we're 2 episodes into the season, and both episodes have ended with Alicent and Kristen doing it.
Yeah.
Or about to do it.
Right.
It was kind of hot, the slapping, though. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, it was kind of hot in a way that made me hate myself.
Yeah,
But, you know,
yeah,
but I was also just like, yeah, okay, yeah. Hit him again. You know? But, no, these people are sick. They're sick.
Yeah,
I'm not nearly as sick as them. I just want to be clear about that. But, so that was it. This was it was a lot, dude. It's a long podcast today. Yeah, we're deep into this thing. And I'm sure there will be a lot more for us to pick through on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles later this week. But Barrett, any final thoughts before we head out for today?
There was one scene that I kind of like, I asked if you were mentioning it and you were not. And so we didn't really touch on it, but it's just it was maybe around 25, 30 minutes into this episode. There's a lot of just like camera shots that are lingering. And I mentioned the scene with Allison kind of sinking into the bathtub.
Yeah.
It made me think about just everybody just kind of stewing in it, sitting in it, sinking in it. Soaking in it, drowning in it, however you want to, phrase
Helena,
that.
we get one where there's like the stuff that's floating in the air.
Yes. I think that might have actually been Rhaenyra. I think that was at Dragonstone. She looks up and sees. But
no, there's a different one. Helena gets one during the funeral, and Rhaenyra gets a different one.
Yeah.
But yes,
okay. You're right. Yeah, Rhaenyra's looking at like dust particles in the air or whatever.
Yes.
But so a lot of those. This episode was long and it had a lot going on, but it also took time for these moments of just like. Almost like contemplation.
Reflection.
Just kind of, I think everybody just wishing that they could move 2 or 3 steps backwards and kind of.
How did we get here?
Already, they're like wishing that they could undo all of this. But she's when Rhaenyra sees the dust, she's sitting there with her children, her 2 little blonde boys or blonde children.
Yes.
And just another like, oh, Jesus, what's going to happen? Because. There's an obvious parallel there between the 2 blonde children in the Red Keep, one of whom was just murdered. So, I just wanted to call that scene out because she's sitting there just kind of like looking at her kids. What I thought about in that moment is just like how like there's no moment of relaxation for her anymore. Like there's none of that. And this is tension for the rest of the way until this thing is done.
There was a point in Game of Thrones where like so many people have died that you start to feel this overwhelming sense of like despair from the entire cast of characters. That, like we've gone too far. We've all lost so much.
Yeah.
We were already there in this show. Like that's one of the things that season 1 and all the time jumps helped them accomplish. Like,
sure,
you get deep into this conflict really without too much TV time having passed. And 2 episodes into season 2, like, man, yeah, that's a great point. There was a lot of reflection about like, oh my God, like how many more are we going to lose? Like Rhaenyra's sitting there trying to appreciate her children that are still alive while also reflecting on the fact that like children of a similar age just had their lives endangered and one of them got their head sawed off in King's Landing. Yeah, it's a mess, dude. This is a mess. Remember, in addition to our sponsor-based public episodes, we will be releasing an ad-free episode every Thursday this season exclusively on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles, where we dive deeper into each episode with further digestion and discussion driven by hotline calls from our listeners. Subscribe on patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles now and enjoy a 7-day free trial so you can see how awesome those episodes are when this Thursday's drops. There's already another one in there from last Thursday that you can enjoy right now as well, where we further discuss episode 1. Patreon.com/oysters, clams, cockles. Also, please support our sponsors all season long by using the URLs and codes provided in the description of each episode, as that is how we stay in business. Check out the Ross Bolin podcast for more from me. If you're an F1 fan, check out Formula Bone, available wherever you consume OCC, including youtube.com/@FormulaBone. If you're watching The Acolyte, check out Children of the Watch. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram @WRBolin. Mr. Dudley, where can the people follow you?
Oh, I'm on the social media platforms @BarrettDudley, 2 R's, 2 T's.
Go to bolinmedia.com/shop to grab yourself some merch. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for listening. Thank you for watching. We look forward to hearing everyone's reactions on Patreon and reading them on social media. Holler at us. Until next time, I declare bankruptcy!